Imagine walking down a normal street one moment, and in the blink of an eye, everything changes. The people around you are suddenly dressed in clothing from decades ago. Modern shops transform into vintage storefronts. You've somehow stepped back in time. For dozens of people in Liverpool, England, this isn't science fiction. It's their actual lived experience on one unassuming shopping street, Bold Street. What's up, explorers? Today, we're diving into one of the most documented time anomalies in the modern world. Before you click away thinking, this is just another ghost story, these accounts come from police officers, university students, and everyday shoppers with no prior interest in the paranormal. Let's start with the case that put Bold Street on the map. In 1996, Frank, an off-duty police officer, was shopping with his wife, Carol. As Frank approached Bold Street, he walked through what felt like an oasis of quietness. Suddenly, a vintage delivery van with Kaplan's written on the side nearly hit him. Disoriented, Frank looked around, and everything had changed. The Dillon's bookshop he was heading toward now had a sign reading Crips. The display windows showed women's handbags instead of books, and the people around him were all dressed in clothing from the 1940s. Frank noticed one young woman who stood out because she was wearing modern clothes. She seemed just as confused as he was. When they entered the store together, the interior suddenly transformed back into the modern Dillon's bookshop. When Frank asked if she saw the same thing, she confirmed she expected to find a clothing store, not books. Frank wasn't some attention-seeking teenager. He was a police officer, someone trained to observe details and report facts accurately. So what exactly did he experience that day? In 2006, something even more dramatic happened to a 19-year-old named Sean. While fleeing from a security guard, Sean ducked into a dead-end alley. When he ventured back onto Bold Street, his surroundings had completely changed. Cars were suddenly old-fashioned. Everyone wore vintage clothing. Panicking, Sean tried to use his mobile phone but found it had no signal. At a nearby newspaper kiosk, he checked the date on a newspaper and was stunned to see May 18th, 1967, nearly 40 years in the past. The twist? When the security guard was later interviewed, he claimed that when he followed Sean down the dead-end alley, the young man had completely disappeared. And when researchers checked the historical details Sean provided about Liverpool in 1967, they found his account to be surprisingly accurate. Details a 19-year-old would have no reason to know. That same year, a university student named Jane was walking down Bold Street, talking on her mobile phone, when the call suddenly dropped. Looking up, Jane found herself in what appeared to be Victorian-era Liverpool. Horses and carriages filled the street. Women wore elaborate gowns, while men were in formal suits. Large oil lamps illuminated everything. An elderly man sweeping outside a shop even gestured for her to move aside. The entire experience lasted approximately 1 minute before everything suddenly reverted to normal when she looked back at her phone. If you're thinking these stories sound made up, I understand your skepticism. But these are just 3 out of dozens of documented accounts from Bold Street. And they share patterns that are difficult to dismiss. When we examine these accounts, fascinating patterns emerge. First, most witnesses report being transported to specific time periods, either the 1950s, 60s, or the Victorian era. None of the reported time slips appear to go back before the 1920s. Second, many witnesses describe similar sensory changes at the onset. A sudden quietness or change in atmosphere, strange sensations in their body, changes in light quality. And third, these experiences are typically brief, lasting only a few minutes before reality snaps back to normal. So what could explain this phenomenon? The most compelling theory connects to Liverpool's underground railway system. The electric rails form concentric circles with Bold Street roughly at the center. Brooks Alley, where Sean disappeared, is described as being smack dead center of the great circle that makes the Liverpool underground rail system. Some scientists suggest that the high-voltage electrical fields generated by this circular railway might distort the fabric of space-time in that specific area, creating temporary windows to the past. We know from Einstein's theories that time and space can be warped by gravity and energy. Is it possible that under very specific conditions, the electromagnetic fields beneath Bold Street create momentary tears in the fabric of time itself? Of course, skeptics offer more conventional explanations like temporary disorientation or memory confabulation, but these struggle to account for the specific historical details witnesses report, details that are later verified as accurate. What makes these accounts particularly compelling is their consistency across different witnesses and time periods. The specificity of details, particularly those that witnesses couldn't have known without historical research, adds an intriguing dimension. And it raises profound questions about the nature of time itself. Is time truly linear, flowing in one direction? Or could the past be closer than we realize? Perhaps just a step away under the right conditions. I don't know about you, but the next time I'm walking down a busy street and things suddenly get quiet, I might just check to see what year I'm in. If you found this exploration fascinating, hit that like button right now. And if you want to dive deeper into unexplained mysteries, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? A moment where reality seemed to glitch? Share your story in the comments below. I read them all. Until next time, keep your mind open, but your eyes even more open. The world is stranger than we think.